What's happening, Andy here? I'm joined today by Bryan Ammons. Bryan is with SOS Atlanta. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Great to see you. SOS Atlanta is a part of the Flex Technology Group, and Bryan, we wanted to have you on here because you and I sat together at a Flex event a couple months ago, and you shared some really great news. Quite a milestone you've achieved, and so why don't you share with us what we talked about that night? What point in your career are you at here with this?
Well, we'll end with that. But I started work for SOS as a senior in high school. This was a part-time job, no intent to be in this business. And I came to work for a company that had about 12 people. It was founded by Lowell Fox. And what I learned pretty quickly was they had a lot of fun. And especially the sales group had a lot of fun. And as a part-time guy that was used to doing whatever gopher work they told me to do, I kept watching what they did. And they made all the money, had all the fun, never worked. I wanted to be one of those. So I decided to move to sales at a very young age. And I got married the same year, 1974. I started with SOS 73, went into sales, got married in 74. So I've been here 50 years now.
Wow.
It's of May. Yeah. Thank you. Still feels like not that long ago, although I look in the mirror and I can tell it's been a long time. But no, I went into sales and found that selling copiers, and of course the business was in such a different place. Treated paper, liquid toner. We had one plain paper machine, the Royal Bond Copier 1, RBC 1. That was it. That was the lineup. It was all treated paper copiers except for one model. And over the years, I kept selling more and had gotten to a point where I was looking for what can I do more. And I went to Mr. Fox and said, if I found other people and I trained them on how to do what I'm doing, would you give me an override on their sales? He said, yeah, I'll do that. So I started hiring salespeople. And after I had a team that was up and running and selling, which up until then, everybody we hired seemed to fizzle out. So he was pretty impressed, and he let me keep doing that. I was given the title sales manager after I already had a team. And the PC hadn't been invented yet. And I was spending nights and weekends doing paperwork, doing commissions. And I said, there's got to be a better way. So IBM came out with a small business computer, and I asked him, can I go to their seminar and see if this would fit? And he said, sure. So I took our part-time accounting guy, and we went to this event. And he said, oh, yeah, this will do everything. Serialized inventory parts. Okay. So I called Mr. Fox back and said, it's $12,000, which in the 70s was a lot of money. And but it had dual floppies, the big 10-inch floppies, not the little 3.5-inch or 5.25. And so we worked nights and weekends to get everything keyed in because you couldn't transfer it from manual records. And voila, we had a system. And he said, if you'll watch over it, train admin. So I did, and made my life easier, which is what was important to me at the time. And shortly thereafter, I was made vice president, and hired a replacement for my sales manager, my position, and continued to work with the company. And in 1985, Mr. Fox was looking for an exit plan, and I became the plan. And so we did a 10-year buy sell. I bought half of his stock. He gifted half to his daughter, Rhonda Fox. And we worked 50-50 stockholders for a number of years. And about 16 years ago, Rhonda decided that she wanted to adopt a child. And I knew that her priorities were going to change. And I had already had 2 children and knew what life was like on that side, and said, maybe it's time we do our buy sell. And we did. And so I was sole owner. And we fast forward to 2022, where in May of last year, we were acquired by Flex Technology Group, and now in that elite group of dealers. So it's been a wild ride, pretty simple. We're doing the same thing today we did back then. You make cold calls, you find ways to get into customers and sell them a gear. The gear we sell is way different. Managed IT, telephony, things of that nature have changed the landscape some, but the concept's the same. So,
Well, you know, what an awesome story. And just taking you back to your beginning in 73. So we're celebrating 50 years of you in this industry. The changes that you've seen in SOS, going from when you joined, they were a business machine company, right? They were it was copiers. And did they have what else did they have? Anything?
Just copiers.
Just copiers. And now we look at all the things you just mentioned: telephony and managed services, managed print services, printers, all sorts of things that, you know, weren't really part of it. But that evolution, that move Lowell allowed you to make in bringing in the IBM technology was, you know, dabbling your toe in something new that really helped you turn the corner and allowed you to be, you know, take that next step forward, whether it was into just a better managed, more organized company, or a company that had different products that you can now sell to your currently happy customers, right? I mean, how's it gone? You know, how did you come into some of these new areas and decide, because you could sell anything, you know, you've got dealers selling coffee, you've got some selling water, some sell, you know, document management and scanning, and you may do that. But, you know, what's the process like when you look at a new area that's somewhat adjacent, maybe a little peripheral, but, you know, what's that like for you, especially at this point in your career where, you know, a lot of times people in your position might say, well, maybe we shouldn't spend my money right now, and, you know, I could ride it out. How's that been moving in these different directions, and what's that been like for you?
Well, the managed IT is the most significant, and that's, you know, been a 10-year journey, and a lot of money, but it's paid back, because once you get to a certain level, certain size, it seems that things get easier. You're not dependent upon one smart guy that's in the back that knows how to fix everything. You've got several 10, 20 smart guys. And so it makes life easier as you grow those businesses. But what prompted me to go there, and this is way after the acquisition from Lowell, when I bought him out, this was hearing the industry is going to lose aftermarket year after year. And the concept of hearing that go, being someone who had been actively involved with our network when we first had our first one, because after that first IBM, within 3 or 4 years, we moved to a Novell network, small.
Remember that? We had that. We had one of those.
And, yeah, and then we moved along and you know, went from Fast Track, one of the old operating, you know, ERPs for our industry, but and then we moved to eAutomate, and so all along the way, networking was of interest, but I couldn't find anybody making any money. So all of my dealer friends that were doing it said, yeah, we still haven't figured that part out. And that's when you fixed everything, and anybody that had a computer problem you tried to jump on, and there was no recurring revenue. It was break fix, and said, this isn't what I want to do. And then I cheat. I know a lot of dealers, CDA and other things, and I see what they're doing, and I learn from them. And I said, well, you know, I think that now's the time. So we built it from scratch, built out a pretty good sized knock here in the building. And we use that as our training ground for new people. So someone is hired in and they're fairly quickly sent to the setup shop. They set up copiers and they learn how to install and how to get those on the network. Then they come into the NOC and they're answering incoming calls, because all of our customers, no matter IT, supplies, copier, they call the same number, they go into the NOC, and the goal of the NOC is to solve the problem without sending a tech out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's step one. And so we put them on the phones. We've got gear in that room with a lot of the more current models. And we have them, if somebody can't figure out how to duplex or this or that, they go over to the machine and walk them through it. So a lot of times the service calls are, they just don't know how to use the machine. So we do clear a fair amount of calls. And that level of service helps us get more business, and it gets people introduced to the fact that we have managed IT and that we answer the phone pretty quick. And if whoever answers realizes the problems, needs to go to a level 2, level 3, they'll move the call to them and get it fixed, hopefully quickly. But that it took a while for that business and to get your salespeople are worried that if you start taking care of my customer and you don't do it right, I won't have a customer. So they get a little protective. And we've kind of gotten through that. That took a while. And now they know that we're very capable. And it took a few big name accounts for them to realize that, hey, if they're letting us take care of their network, we must be okay. So, and then telephony is just it's part of the network nowadays. It's just a Ethernet cable to a phone. So that makes tons of sense. And again, it has recurring revenue. And that was the compelling part for managed IT is, if you do a good job, it's very sticky. They don't want to lose you. And, so you hold on to the account, and there's no 3-year upgrade, 5-year upgrade. It's just, it goes and goes and goes. And if we do our job, we keep the customer. So we've been pretty good at that.
Now, how are you cultivating the managed services side of that? Are you going back to current customers, or do you have a separate sales force? You did mention maybe some specialists. I don't know if they are a completely separate force, or are the geo office equipment reps bringing in how does the managed services business come to you?
Every angle. We use our reps. They're not as, it has not been as easy as we thought using our current reps. They're a bit intimidated with the questions they should be asking, because they don't always know the answer, and they like to ask questions they know the answer to.
Right. So
we have found that if they just bring up the fact that we have it, and would this customer like to just hear somebody out about what our services provide, then we bring in somebody that is a sales rep for the managed IT. So they're not out cold calling, they're taking the leads from our reps and saying, hey, I think this customer may be willing to chat with you, and get something started. And that has worked pretty well. And we also have some outbound marketing that, telephone marketing that we have picked up, and we call our current customers and we call net new. But some of the current customers have the hang up of, no, you're the copier company. So we've had to, it almost became easier to get a net new customer than it was our current customer.
Yeah, they don't want to mess it up. They don't want to change the relationship. But to your credit and to our industry's credit, typically the office equipment companies like you, they're a lot more rock solid than your typical small networking company, right? Like you guys will show up within a couple of hours. I'm guessing 2-3 hours is the norm. Usually when you show up, your team shows up with a van full of parts and equipment, and gets things fixed, doesn't have to go home and order stuff to bring back the next time. You usually, the reputation an office equipment reseller has versus a networking reseller, it's a different experience, and so hopefully you're getting a little bit of benefit from that when you bring it up. But I could see some of these guys thinking, we've worked with you for 40 years. or maybe 50 years, right? Or longer. How old is
Yeah.
SOS at this point? Obviously they were there longer than, 50 years because you came there when you were all of 10.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it was 1964 was when Lowell founded the company. I joined in 73 and he left in 95.
Wow. So
So
this is your 50th year, and then next year is going to be the company's 60th year.
that's correct.
How cool. How exciting is that? So the mark you guys have made, and you're in Atlanta. What are some of the brands that you sell that we'd be familiar with? Is it, I think Sharp is one of them. Is that
Yep.
one?
Sharp and Canon,
Canon?
KIP wide format,
Yeah.
HP, Kyocera printers. So that's
Yeah.
primarily what,
Excellent
obviously
product.
computer equipment.
So let's
Computers.
shift focus. I want to ask you a couple questions while we have you, because I didn't realize it was that recent. But tell me about the experience selling to Flex. How is you're still there? It's been a little while, but it's still recent enough that if you weren't happy, you might not. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now, right? So how did it go?
That's right.
How did you wind up choosing? How did you wind up choosing these guys? What was it about them, and then how's your experience been since you guys became integrated into that family?
I looked at some various players, and what I liked about Flex was the commitment that we're going to leave you alone. You keep your people, you keep your company name, you keep your culture. We're not trying to change that. We just want to have that business under our umbrella. And Frank came in when we announced to the company, and I said, you tell them I'm not going to, that you're not going to change anything, because that's what he says. And we all know that stuff's going to change when you're acquired. And but to their credit, very little has changed. And we do pretty much everything we did before. And we've garnered some much better pricing from some of the vendors. So that has helped. And, I looked at their experience with MPS, and they do it on levels that we've never even considered. And if I had to look at the weakest spot in our business, we were very weak in what real MPS is. And they were very strong in that. And I thought, well, that gives us a growth path and something to focus on, and we can learn from them, and we have. And we're starting to play in deals that we would have never been in before. And having their network around the country makes a difference. So we've been very happy with that. And I just got back from a meeting, and I'm very happy with the Flex team and how we work together. So.
It's funny you mentioned that the managed print services. When I interviewed him, it was clear that they are all in. I don't know of another company that's so focused exclusively, almost it seems, on managed print services, and he almost uses your companies as sort of satellites to drive the central program, the coast to coast program that he's trying to build there. And it's amazing that once you start learning about it, just how focused that company really is on managed print. In fact, it surprised me you had such a strong managed services program, because that's not the typical way of a lot of the Flex companies. And that is one of the things that's neat about them, is they're unique, right? So you carry this, you're in a telephony, another company somewhere else may not carry that, may not be offering that. They're still, like you said, they're still managed, they're still operated as they were when they were independent, but now you're part of this bigger story, so to speak. So very, very cool. And obviously, you still being there says more than any of the words that you're going to say, or any questions I'm going to ask you, right? I mean, when did you say it was again? It was last year?
May of 22.
So you're just a year in, you just celebrated 1 year in the Flex group. And you're still there. So to me, that's the real drive. Because usually, a lot of times you see people stay or they're going to stay, and 90 days later they're gone, and they just maybe they lose their passion, or things change, or they just it just wasn't exactly the way they thought it was going to be. And sometimes it's just, and some of the other companies that, that are out there acquiring, they do have a different model, and theirs works too. It's just a different one. And that's good for, I guess, somebody who's ready to leave, ready to get out. And, that company comes in and they take over, and they really change. You become part of that name, and your local name goes away. I think there's something to be said for both of them. I do like how, for 60 years, people in that local community have known SOS. And, you look at some of these other brands that Frank's bought over the years, and, ProSource, ProCopy, all these different companies, the people in those local markets know them. So to keep the brand, to keep the local talent, that's, you get that stability, you get consistency. That's the big fear when a company gets acquired, is that, as a customer, your concern is that, am I going to get the service I've become accustomed to? Are they going to honor the relationship, that I have with them, that I've had for years? Are they going to remember the things that I've done for them over the years that maybe they owe me in a pinch, right? I mean, there's favors that go back and forth, and so it's great to hear. It's great to hear this story, and just to learn a little bit more about, your journey and where you've been. So before we wrap up, what's the big celebration for you? Did you get a watch? Did you get a card? What did you buy yourself something nice?
No,
No.
it's just another, it's very similar to 49 years.
Yeah.
It makes really no difference. I don't think all that highly of birthdays. So this for me is just
another day.
Something to look at and say, wow, I just can't believe it's been 50 years. I wish I had another 50 in me, because then when you say, Bryan, how long are you going to be there? Oh, I've got 30 more years.
Yeah.
If I have another 50, but unfortunately, I don't have that. So I don't know the outcome, but I do want to go to another chapter eventually, and not look at emails and worry about what if and this and that, and just kind of do some traveling. And so my long-term goal.
Yeah.
But I'm still very happy with the relationship with Flex and what they bring to the table for us. And you mentioned what about your customers? And we were worried about that. Sure. And we've had zero pushback, because our message to them was, your sales rep stays your sales rep, your tech stays your tech, the phone number stays the same. You're still talking to our knock when you call in for service or supplies or help with IT. So everything stayed the same, and there's been zero pushback on the change. So that was a relief, to say the least. But
that's got to be, that when you're making a move like that, I have to think the two things you're worried about is, first, your employees, right? That's your family almost, and in some cases it is your family. And then then, like you said, the customers, right? You spent your whole career taking care of them, and to hand over the keys to somebody who may have a different way of doing things is scary. And so, a year later, you're still here, you're still smiling. And here we are celebrating your 50th year. They let you make it.
Yeah.
So, it's just, it's a win for everybody. And it's been great catching up with you. I really appreciate you sharing this great story. I hope somebody takes you out for a nice dinner. Maybe they send you something good, Sharp or Canon or one of them, HP, any of them. If they're listening, if they're watching, let's get this guy some celebrations down here in Atlanta. But great catching up with you. I can't wait. We'll see you soon. And sooner or later, I'm sure either at a Flex event or BTA or one of these. But Bryan, thanks so much for taking the time and chatting with us today.
Hey, thank you, Andy. Good to talk to you.
Bye-bye.